Hello and welcome to the Car Care channel. The 2AR FE 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine from Toyota. It's a very popular engine. Started in 09. It's very RAV4, then in the Camry. Then it kind of was almost every single model until it was discontinued and replaced by the A25A. So this engine is developing a new issue that is kind of becoming the norm, especially the early ones. A rattling noise. Sometimes you could just be stopped at idle, you hear it rattling, or you're in drive, you hear it rattling, or when you take off. That rattling noise sounds something like this. It's a pretty loud rattling noise, and the cause of that noise is a balance shaft. So here's something with these engines. This is a 4-cylinder engine. In order to balance its movements, you need to have a counterweight. So every time two pistons go up, the counterweight goes the other way and it balances the vibrations of the engine. That's all the balance shaft does. It doesn't do anything else. That balance shaft has a gear that has a Teflon part inside of it that comes apart and starts rattling. In today's video, we're going to fix that rattling here. We're going to it's actually not a very difficult job, but you got to make sure you time it right. That's the most important thing. So let's start this job. Let's pull it up, pull the oil pan, do everything. We'll show you how to do it. So the first thing we're going to do here, I want to remove the drive belt. And you may be wondering, why am I starting with the drive belt? We are replacing the drive belt and the tensioner. And in order to see where the position of the crank is, I'm going to end up potentially taking the crank pulley out. I might just at least remove the bolt. So I want to do that while we are here before we lift it up. So you might be wondering, why am I taking that cover off for a drive belt? What I like to do is remove this, move it to the side. That gives you more access. I'm gonna just move this to the side. You don't need to drain the coolant or anything. Now you actually have a better access to that tensioner, which is right here. So you're gonna put your 14 right here, pull it, and it'll loosen the tension on the belt. And here's how I normally do this. I want you to see this. See, if I put my wrench right here and pull it, you're kind of in a tight space and you're trying to fight it. Here's a trick. Use a ratcheting wrench, pull it down, hold the tensioner with a pry bar, ratchet your wrench, and then pull it down. That gives you an additional access to this. Let me pull this belt off. See, right now, my wrench, once I took the belt and the tensioner ratcheted, see how my wrench is standing right here? You can actually, if you're just doing a belt, you can actually leave it there and not have to worry about it. So let me pull this belt out of the way. There we go. This belt we are replacing. It's not in bad shape, but if we have it out, just refresh it with a new one. Now that we've done this, if you want to get your wrench out, just pull the wrench down, hold the tensioner with a pry bar, pull your wrench, off we go. Let's lift the car up, drain the oil, and we'll pull the oil pan. But before that, what I usually like to do also is pull the oil cap so we know we have no oil in this engine, put it right here. Let's lift the car up. So I'm going to remove this wheel. You don't have to, but I want to remove it just to give us more access so the camera can actually show you what we're doing. So here's the plan. Balance shaft lives right underneath, on top of the oil pan. So we're going to have to drain the oil. So maybe if you're doing this, time it with an oil change. That would be ideal. But first, let's remove this cover. Now I'm going to remove this side cover as well so we can access the crank pulley easily. Now here's something cool about these RAV4s. This has a multi-piece subframe, so you see how this is one piece, this is another. So you can actually remove this piece, which then will give you a lot more access to the oil pan. With that out of the way, let's drain the oil. Let's get our oil filter as well. New original oil filter. This is an A1. There we go. A1 filters for these. So here's something about Toyota drain plugs. The gasket always gets stuck. Just put a screwdriver right here. There it is. It makes it simple. Don't double gasket these. We're not worried about draining all the oil. We're pulling the oil pan. Kind of drain everything. So we're gonna pull the oil pan. There is a series of 10mm bolts all around it. I'm gonna remove all of them. If you have like a Camry or another model that does not have the separate subframe, or you can have great access to these will be a little bit tight, but you can get crafty with your sockets and you can get it. Worst case scenario, lift up the engine a little bit. That gets a little bit more complicated, but it's not bad. I'm gonna leave a couple bolts just in case once we pop the sealer off, it wants to fall. Actually, I think it's best if we leave another bolt right here. Take this one out. There are multiple ways to break an oil pan loose from sealer. Best way I found, get yourself a rubber hammer. Eventually you'll hear the seal break. See how that sound is changing? Find a spot, put a screwdriver, pop down. There it is. Otherwise, you'll be here for a while, fighting with it to break the seal, because this oil pan of course was not leaking, so the seal is pretty good. Now the oil pan is loose. When you take these two bolts, it'll just fall, so be careful. Gotta hold it up. Whenever you bring an oil pan on an engine, take it down straight, don't immediately dump it. This is how much oil gets left in the oil pan when you do an oil change. How about that? Isn't that something? So let's take this oil a little bit to the side. I want you to see it better. This is the reserve. This is the oil, because if this pan is standing straight, look at the drain plug. This doesn't even get close to it. What you want to do here is we want to look for obvious signs of big metal shavings, anything out of the ordinary. I'm not seeing anything. Oil looks like it needs changing, but nothing out of the ordinary. So watch how much oil there is when you actually do an oil change to your car. This is how much is left. All this. That is normal, folks. Not seeing anything over the top here, so I think we are good. We're gonna clean this pan later. Now that we got here, the balance shaft is actually this guy right here. We gotta remove the pickup tube. Gotta remove this little baffle. Actually, clean it. This is typical varnish for these engines. Let's remove the pickup tube. That is normal. Well, folks, when you pull the pickup tube, you're gonna get all kinds of stuff. Now we're going to pull this baffle here. It's just an oil baffle, nothing to it. That's not looking too pretty, isn't it? Look at this. Look at all of this. Folks, this is the beginning of sludge. That's why when you send your oil to the oil analysis people, maybe you ought to take a scoop of that, send it to them. They'll see what is really going on. So this is a dipstick, by the way, if you're not familiar. A dipstick basically goes into the oil pan and measures your oil. It's very simple. It's probably going to be in our way, so you can push it and pop it. But this one is proven difficult. Let's see if we get lucky. There it is. We just popped it at the top just to get it out of our way. So here's the thing with this balance shaft. Do not take the black bolts. You're only taking the outside ones. You have a series of 14s and 12s. But before you go and take it out, we might want to figure out our timing, because this is very important. So for that, we're going to come right here. There's these two cutouts on this gear. You see them? We're going to point at them. You want to make sure you watch the position of these. And what we're going to do to verify that, you want to find the position of the key on the crank. In order to do that, you have to pull the crank pulley bolt out. Now, if you're careful and you don't want to deal with a crank pulley bolt, because you don't have the tools, you don't have the equipment, whatever the case, however you take the balance shaft, you need to return it exactly at that same position. And another timing mark on this, if you come around, this one is a little bit more difficult to see, but you see how this one has a dot, and here is the line. You can also line these up, and if you line one of them, the other one will line up because they're connected together. So for our purposes, I'm actually going to do it how a DIYer would do it. We're going to get this dot to line up with this line. Just like that. Hold on, can you see something? I don't know the chances. We are the luckiest people on the planet that it felt exactly where it is. So here's something I was going to tell you. These are the moments when cars just kind of reward you. We did not set this up. This thing almost landed exactly on time. But if this dot is all the way at the top, you have to rotate the engine until they line up. Now, I don't want you thinking that if you notice this dot's like slightly off to one side, folks, that's not going to make a difference, because you're talking about when we pull it out, you see, we're talking about a very large gear. You can't be slightly off. You're either way off or on. I want you to realize that. Having said that, don't use power tools to break them loose. That's the one recommendation, because you're going to be here gattling for a while, because these are stretch bolts. So I'm going to break them off by hand. I'm going to loosen my 12s first. I have the three 12s. Then the 4 14s. You hear that hiss of air? That's air from 2011, basically, if this hasn't been apart. That's the air that gets trapped in there when you assemble it. So don't think this balance shaft's ever been replaced. So welcome to 2025, 2011 air. Now that you broke it loose, we can take the bolts. Here's a nice thing about this. These 3 bolts, they have the same length. You don't have to worry about where they go. They're all basically exactly the same. Same thing with the 14. Pretty long 14s. There it is. Now, I want you to be aware of something. Don't just take the 4 bolts, because the thing will drop. I want to show you how it's going to be. See that? There it is. So you want to hold it. It's not super heavy. There's your balance shaft. See what I told you, you can't be way off. These are pretty big. So now we're on, if I go one tooth, it's gonna be there. That's not close. So these are weighted. So if you notice, they have a tendency of wanting to go one way. That's what's gonna make it a little interesting to install. And if you want to install this, it's gonna keep turning on you. So just be mindful of that. Do you see that? If you stand it right here, if you move it a little bit, it'll tend to want to go. So that's normal. So what this balance shaft is attached to is the crank right here. See the crank? There's this gear on the crank that drives it. So it's pretty simple there. It's not a bad job, but you need to be aware of the timing. So what happens if you time it wrong? I'm just gonna flat out tell you. If you time it wrong, you're not gonna damage anything. You're gonna have to do the job all over again because it'll vibrate a lot, especially at idle, and you'll end up having a new job again. So pay close attention to the timing of this. And once you pull the balance shaft off, don't move the crank anymore because you'll lose your timing. And now here's a new balance shaft. Folks, these are very expensive. And the problem is they're over $1,000, just over $1,000 for just this part. Problem is, in the 2AZ motor that is before this one, you could rebuild the balance shaft. You could change the bearings, change the shaft, whatever needs attention, you can take care of it. This one, you can't get anything. It's just one solid unit that looks like this. That's the sad part. Here's how that looks like, nice and shiny. Now, let's talk about a few things. You will read online some folks saying, oh, you can just remove this and run the engine without it. It'll vibrate a little bit. That is incorrect, folks. You need to be aware of one thing. This balance shaft has bearings inside of it. See this? That's an oil passage. You leave this out, all the pressure of the engine will just cycle right back into the oil pan. You won't have oil pressure to the rest of the engine. Be careful. That's not how you do it. You're supposed to plug the hole if you're going to do that. And the best part is, why are you doing that? Fix the car right. Don't mend it, because that's not how the car was designed. Let's look at our timing marks here. We want this one to line up with the dot. And then if you look here, there's actually another dot and a line. But here's the very, very important part, and I'm going to reiterate this because that's how you make mistakes. Don't just line this up, not look at the old one, line this up and install it. You need to time your old one first before you remove it. Because if you're in a different position and you line that one up and install it, well, it's not synced with the crank. And for you, in case you didn't notice and you got stuck with one, how do I know what's the time? You're going to remove the crank pulley, remove the bolt, remove the pulley. You're going to have the cutoff on the crank nose. That cutoff needs to face the front of the car, just at a 90-degree angle right here. And that's the time. Just thought for you guys to know that. And once we get our oil pan, I'm going to actually take it out for you to see that position. Having said that, we are ready basically to install it. There's no sealer or anything in between. We are going to have to watch our marks though. So I have it set right here. Let's make sure our mark's still good. We are still good. You don't want that. That's moving around like that is not good. So what I'm going to do is down. Just gonna move our gear just to here. Something is. They're likely getting stuck on the dowels, which there are two of them. If you have that rocking back and forth motion, you're likely getting stuck on these dowels. So here's what we're gonna do. Here's one, here's another one. We're not gonna go excessive. A little bit of Scotch-Brite. We're gonna just give them a quick clean. I'm gonna try this again. And this has to be perfectly straight when you install it. Otherwise, these dowels will, like if you push one of them in first, this back one is getting stuck. See how we don't have side-to-side movement anymore? That's what you want. Well, see, now we haven't paid attention to our timing. So let's just give it a check. Yep, we're still right on the dot. We were actually slightly off this way, which is okay. As long as you install it back in the same position and don't move the crank in the process, we should be okay. I'm gonna just lightly run these down so I don't have to keep holding it. Install the rest of the bolts and we'll talk about torquing them down. So the first bolts we're going to tighten are the 12s, and they are 18 foot-pounds. Then the 14s, we're going to do them in an X pattern. They are 32 foot-pounds. And that's that. Here's what I'm going to do. I want you guys to verify your timing. So I'm going to pull the bolt off the crank pulley and I'll show you how you verify your timing. So here's your verification. Crank pulley bolt is off. Do you see the cutout? This is where the key is. I put a little mark just to show you. This is pointing towards the front of the car. I know it looks a little bit like turned this way. Remember, this engine is not sitting straight. It's a little bit at an angle. So once this is facing the front, this mark is lined up. This by default is lined up because these two are connected. So we are good. Now here's a note, and this is where the things get interesting. If this is on the other way, it'll also line up. And this is where you want to be careful, because if you come in the back here, there's these two cutouts. Make sure these are also facing each other. That's what we started with. So follow the book on this one. The crank needs to be facing this way, or the key needs to be facing the front of the car when you line these up. That's the best way, that's the right way, the book way to do it. But you can also install it in the exact same position and we're good. Now that we've verified that we're good, let's install everything else, put our oil pan. Clean this up, looks a lot better than how it was. I'm gonna install this, which I always lose the orientation of this one. It goes. I've done so many of these engines, it's like, always lose the orientation of this one. Here it is. Always have to look at it for a second. By the way, this baffle keeps the oil from sloshing up into the crank as you drive. Like you brake, this oil will slosh back and forth. It just prevents it from going all the way up. Although this is just a cover, I'm going to tell you the torque spec for it. It's 7. It's barely tight. So I don't want you breaking bolts. It's barely tight. So that's all it's going to take. So as we prep our strainer to go in, first take a peek inside of it. If you see anything, dig it out or whatnot. Get a new gasket. This is kind of important. I'm going to set this gasket right here. It has a cutout. The cutout needs to go in the opening. There we go, because this gasket's like a little rock. So always replace these. And I just realized something. I missed a bolt on this one. So I was looking at that bolt. I thought it was for this. I get it right now. There it is. These are the same thing. They're all 7. The bolt that we forgot is also 7. There we go. This is now ready for an oil pan. Here's something about oil pans. Prep and with sealer, sorry, not oil pans. Preparation is everything. See this dripping oil right here? That's gonna be the next leak if you're not careful. So here's what I usually do. Take can brake clean, spray everything down really good. That does 2 things. First, that brake clean on the sealer loosens it up a little bit, and then whatever oil residue that you have will start to come down. Step number 1, take a razor blade and get the big pieces. See how there's like here, well, it's already starting to melt, but all these big pieces. I'm gonna mute the audio in this part of the video because this sound may bother some folks. So take a razor blade, be careful with a razor blade, and let's do this. Now that we've got the big chunks cleaned out, Scotch-Brite, red, we're gonna clean it up really well. And this is when you want a very nice final finish on this so we can have good adhesion on the sealer. So I'm gonna clean this up, and then we'll give it a final clean and we'll be ready to install our oil pan. So I want you to look at this surface right here. You see how it has a clean, scuffed finish? That's what you want to end up with. Prep is everything, folks. When it comes to sealer, a lot of folks dislike sealer. When it comes to sealer, prep is everything. It's these critical moments that you spend cleaning is going to determine if this is going to leak or not. Having said that, let's talk about sealer application because this is important. This is where mistakes happen. So we already cleaned this oil pan. Make sure you clean it really well. Make sure you do not have debris. And for those who still argue the 10,000 mile oil change intervals, look at what it does. That's what you end up with. You're not taking that out. That's part of the oil pan now. Toyota sealer. I don't recommend you use aftermarket. This is the official Toyota sealer for oil pans. We're going to cut this tip, open it up. Now there's a lot of applicators and all this fancy stuff. I'm old school. I just do it the way Toyota intended it. Here's the thing with sealer. First, clean the surface you are applying the sealer to. Make sure it's completely oil free. Like here, I have some oil. We're gonna use some brake clean. Give it a quick wipe down. See what happens with brake clean? It immediately evaporates. So, don't put a lot of sealer. It's not about how much you put, it's about how well you clean and prep the surface you're going into. So I'm going to put a very small amount going on the inside. The bolt's on the outside, the oil's on the inside, so your sealer goes on the inside. Now we're going to walk around and make sure we didn't miss any spots. I think we are pretty good. I see this spot needs a little bit of love. Just a little bit. There we go. This is now ready. You have about 15-minute work time with this sealer. We're going to go back here. You see our trails of oil? You got to make sure you wipe these down because that could be the disaster that leaks. I'm going to wipe down our oil. Got it all wiped down. Got a little bit here. Now I'm going to prepare my bolts. Just get them close. Prepare my socket here. And then we're going to give it one more run to make sure we do not have any oil, especially on the areas that love to leak, which is the back. I think we're good. I'm gonna dry this up and get a drip. We're ready to go. In your case, if you haven't done this a lot, you might want to rehearse, and I see a drop of oil forming. This is the tough part of this. Gotta make sure there is no oil draining down. I think we're good. In your case, if you haven't done this, you might want to practice this. Basically do a dry run just to see how you're going to line up your oil pan and how is it going to look like before you install it. So basically you're going to install 2 bolts, run them down. And that's it. I'm going to double check that we got all of them, which we have. There we go. You're going to wait for this to dry for 1 hour. So we're going to set our timer right now. We're going to wait for it for 1 hour. But in the meantime, we do have a few more things that we can do to this while we wait for it. Like, try to take this old balance shaft apart. Just to see, just try to show you. Now, I don't know if I have the specific socket that takes these out, but we'll give it a shot. So this is a 12 millimeter 12-point socket. Per Toyota, you're not supposed to take this apart. They don't sell you parts. They don't give you any specs on this, because as far as they are concerned, this is one part that has no service. However, they had to assemble it somehow, which we're going to find out that somehow shortly here. It's just a balance shaft that has a series of bearings, just like the 2UZ one, the 2AZ one bearings. They actually don't look that bad. Yeah, these look perfectly fine. This one a little bit of wear, but nothing over the top. And the other one stayed. This one has a little bit more wear, but nothing over the top. So here's the balance part. So able to pull it out. There we go. See how this has like a weight That's what balances, the counterbalances the movement of the engine. So this has more bearings. They all don't look bad. So the part that makes the rattle is here. Is this part. Hear that? This is supposed to be muffled, and it is not. Now, I am not sure if this part is going to come apart. I think this may be pressed on, but so this is running. When you hear this noise, this is what's happening. And once it goes, but the initial rattle is this. This gets pretty loud inside the engine. That's what the noise is. Now, message to Toyota right now. If this was like the 2AZ, we'd take this down, go buy a shaft like this one, let's freshen up the bearings, or we're on our merry way. We don't have to buy the entire thing. They don't do that anymore. They want you to replace the whole thing. Don't know why, but that's the problem. So while we wait for this to dry, we got about an hour. Right now, we're about like maybe 50 minutes. Let's lower it down. Let's replace our tensioner, put our belt, put all our covers and everything, and then we gotta actually rotate the tires on this car. So maybe we'll give it a quick inspection, check the brakes, check everything else while this thing dries, and then we're all set. So let's get the tensioner replaced, and once we get it out, I'll tell you why we are replacing it. This is a very simple tensioner. It's just one 12mm bolt right in the middle of it. It's a simple tensioner. It's notorious to make noise. I'll show you that noise. So here's why we're replacing this tensioner. Yep. You can't just replace the pulley and all that, but this tensioner is, by the time you replace this, there isn't much else. Toyota doesn't sell you just the pulley. Here's the thing though with these. So at some point, Toyota updated this tensioner to a metal pulley, because this is a plastic pulley, and everything was great. This is the most updated part number for this tensioner. Well, we are back to the plastic one. That's just how they do it. The only difference is, this is something I think this is what's going to make this better. Do you see how the bearings like open? You just have this little seal. Here, you have this big metal washer that protects the inside of the bearing from debris getting in it. That's why they get loud. So I think that's the only thing they changed. There's one thing you got to watch out with this tensioner. This pin. This pin is going to be hard to show you, but it goes right in this opening right here. There's an opening right there. Point at it in editing. You got to make sure it goes there. Otherwise, you can put it sideways, and then you'll have a really hard time putting this belt on. So let's install it. Be sure you put the pin in the right spot. There it is. It's very hard to put it in the wrong spot, but just pay attention to it. If you're having a hard time, you're probably not lining up that pin. And the belt on the 2AR is actually unnecessarily difficult from Toyota. Thank you very much for that. I'll show you why in a moment. Because they decided to put these guides for the belt around the crank pulley, and if you don't physically move the belt past these guys, they'll get stuck on it. Now you're fighting it for a while. So yeah, thank you Toyota for that. Must have made sense at assembly, but for service it's not great. Let's put it this way. Okay, so let's talk about the belt. If you look at this right here, around the crank, I'll show them to you now with all this, why I left the covers. There is this guide right here, and then there's this guide. If you put the belt from the top, the belt tends to go over these, and then you can install it. So let me just set it up, the initial setup, and then you'll see what I mean.
So if I just run the belt over the crank pulley, just like so, I want Jose to show you that. I'm gonna pull on the belt and see how it gets stuck on these ribs. See how they're over, the belt is over the ribs? What you have to do is get in here, push it past these ribs, 1 and 2, and now it's sitting right. Do you see how the belt is like on top of these two? That's how this works. It's just another thing that Toyota for some reason did it. Doesn't even make sense, but that's how they did it. That's the only thing you gotta do. And if you're doing this, like, you know, without the wheel off, without lifting and whatnot, it's hard to get to the crank pulley. So here's what I like to do with these. Lock your tensioner, and this is the way to lock it. Like, we took it off. I'm gonna go here with a ratcheting wrench, hold the tensioner with a pry bar, ratchet your wrench, push it down, hold, ratchet your wrench, push it down until it maxes out. Now your tensioner is standing on its maximum. If you look at it, your tensioner is fully retracted and you have it locked. See that? How that works? We have it locked right here with the wrench. It's fully, you can install our belt and everything. And then we use the same pry bar trick to get the wrench off. And then it keeps popping off your compressor. That's just, this belt is not fun. For unnecessarily not fun. Almost. There it is. So we are good. Check your crank one more time that you're sitting underneath the ribs. That looks pretty good, just like that. Now you can use the pry bar, pull on the wrench a little bit, hold the tensioner, pull your wrench, let it go. Very simple, that part. Let's put the coolant bottle back. There we go. This part's all done. All we got is put some oil in this car once we reach the time. But in the meantime, we have all the covers underneath. Let's go put those on. While the cover's off, we can do our inspection to the car. So let's put it all the way back up and we'll do our inspection. Let's take a look around this car while we wait for our flippage to dry. This car is pretty well maintained. Unfortunately, the engine, it burns a little bit of oil, nothing excessive. The owner is really on top of it to make sure it doesn't use a lot. But transmission, pretty dry. These are notorious to leak here. If there's a sleeve that cracks, if you kind of slip them in snow and whatnot. But transmission's all dry. I like everything I'm seeing here. Engine, oil pan is not leaking, so that's good. We just did that. Sway bar links, notorious on these to get loose and make noise. These actually have been replaced, I believe, by us. So they were making noise. Fortunately, the front struts are quick struts. That's the way you can tell them is first by this strange paint on them and the strange rust pattern, and then just that tag at the top. These are quick struts. Fortunately, they make noise a little bit, nothing over the top. But engine, we don't have any leaks from it, which is good. Brakes, I think this is the easiest one to see. I'm gonna put them at, let's look at these brakes. These are pretty healthy. That's at least 10 millimeters, so we are good there. Wheels, don't have any play, can't do the same here. We'll do that once we get the wheel on. Drive shaft, hold the other end. That doesn't have any play. There's support bearing. That's good. This side. Doesn't have any play. Fuel tank straps look really good. Believe these were also replaced. Rear shocks are not leaking. I know these have been replaced because these are newer shocks. Sway bar link in the back is notorious to break, and usually you don't see it. You gotta hold it at the top and move it. These have also been replaced, super common on these. Rear differential, super common to leak. This one has 0 leaks, usually from the axle seals or from the front coupler. Nothing's leaking here. Everything looks really good. The rear brakes, probably like 8 to 9 millimeters. These tires, they do have a little bit of, like we call it chop edges, kind of like if you pass your hand here, you feel like peaks and valleys, if you would. Date on these is 2022, so they're not bad. They got plenty of tread life. This car doesn't need anything else. How about that? That's the beauty of this. This muffler is notorious to leak on these, but this one is actually not leaking. It's a pretty good car. I think we've done front sway bar links, rear sway bar links. We've done rear shocks on this. And we've done a VVTi gear a while back. This is the motor that rattles on cold start. So that's what we have. This car needs nothing else. Everything else looks good. We'll check this one once we're there. In case you didn't see them when we were filming it, here's what I was referring to with the belt. Do you see these two? So if you put the belt from the top, they tend to go on top here, and then you won't be able to put it on and it'll just give you a fight. So make sure you tuck the belt underneath them. That's what I was referring to. So having said that, let's install everything back. And so we are pretty much done here. We can put all our covers. Now we do the maze of the covers, which in these RAV4s, the first cover that goes on is the side one. 2 clips at the top. And on this particular cover, there's only 1 clip that goes here, because the other one, when you put the big cover, that's where it goes on. Speaking of the big cover, this is the probably #1 misinstalled cover on any Toyota, because it needs kind of a strange design. You gotta tuck it in, and it comes off the other side. It's gonna keep doing that. That's just how these are. The part that is always misinstalled is this one. You gotta put the front of it underneath this little flap. I always see it on top, so it tends to come apart and just fall off and do all kinds of strange stuff. And here's the more strange stuff that Toyota does. So all these clips are the same, except, once we find, see this one's not sitting yet, so all these clips are the same, except one in the back is bigger. Why? I'm not entirely sure. Why are they not all the same and life is wonderful? It's just how they do this. So this clip is the large one. And usually this is kind of a tough clip to find. So most of them are usually missing it. And you see this cover dangling down. There we go. Special clip is in. The rest of them are just all the same. This is the one that I told you not to install in the front. This car is actually missing it. This clip is... Yeah, this one is not in good shape. Not even holding anything. Got the 3 in the front. So here's the thing. If you own a RAV4 like this is a bolt, not a screw that goes here. Here's how that looks like. And don't over tighten it because these love to break if you over tighten them, so be careful. Use that bolt again. And apparently we are missing one more screw here, so there we go, got them a new one. Well, this part is done. Let's make sure we got all our clips. Yep, I think that's good. Slow it down, rotate the tires, and see where are we at with our timer. So normally, this is another commonly asked question, so let's answer it. Rotation, tire rotation. Front to back, that's all you need to do, every 5,000 miles. We're not gonna cross rotate and rotate the spare end and all that. Don't add more complication. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Because folks either overdo it or don't do it at all. That's the point. So here's something for the young techs out there that are starting working on cars. You want to lift the tire, not hurt your back? Use your body as an anchor. So if you just lift it like this, you're using your back completely. But if you lean the tire on your body, you got uniform, gets dirty, you get washed every day. Anchor the wheel on your body, then lift it. That way you're actually not using your back to lift the tire. You're just kind of rolling it on your body, using your body as a pivot. And that way you don't strain your back. Your back might be fine when you're 20-some-year-old, but as the years add up, you're gonna start feeling it. All right. And last but not least, we're gonna check the tire pressure, make sure everything is good. I'm gonna set them at 35 and 29.9. Do the same on all four, and if you own a RAV4 like this, try not to do this. This is someone that lifted it from here. For some reason, this is such a flimsy piece right here, although it's part of the pinch weld. You gotta go in front of it. If you're careful, you could lift it from here, but ideally, go right there. Because these love to bend like that. Let's put our last cover here as we try to use up the hour as efficiently as possible. Let's add some oil. This was a long wait. Just want to give it the full hour to make sure everything sets, we don't have leaks. So this particular car takes 5W20. We have upgraded it to 530 because of the oil burning. This seems to control it a little bit better. And this engine was actually originally designed for 530. Just heads up out here. This particular engine takes 4.6 quarts. I'm gonna go with that. Check it out. Okay. This cover is missing a grommet. Fortunately, this one is broken. See this grommet that's sitting right here? This is where it goes. It should look like this. Fortunately, it's broken. So we're not gonna replace this cover for that. Let's start it, shall we? Sounds pretty good. Let's check the oil level. We need to add more, and I actually forgot this part. The reason we need to add more is we dropped the oil pan. We're gonna add actually the whole 5 quarts. We may actually have to add more. I forgot this part. This is not a standard oil change. You remember all that oil that was sitting in the oil pan? We have to compensate for that. We need actually more. I want to get this car completely cold, so we want to go right in the halfway mark. Let's add a little bit more. Maybe a quarter of a quart. Let's see where we're at. I think I'm gonna leave it here. We'll go drive it and adjust it as we need it as it warms up. Because here's something else that most folks get wrong. They'll check their oil when the car's cold. Well, oil expands when it warms up. So what you end up having is when the car is running, your oil level is all overfilled. And then they check it again, well, it's overfilled. Well, you overfilled it when it's cold. So if I get this to the top when it's cold, it's going to be overfilled. And engines tend to run mostly hot, warmed up, not cold. So I'm going to leave this one. We'll drive it, check the oil level again. Should be good. There's only one thing we have left to do. A little bit of cleanup. That is much better. And this is one job done. So what we're gonna have to do here is drive it, warm it up, verify that our problems are fixed, we have no more noise. Put a small clip here of how it sounds before. And then after. You always have to verify. Folks, this is not a difficult DIY job, but it's a job that's not, if you've only done oil changes on your car, it's a little bit more involved. So if you've done a timing belt, if you've done water pump, if you've done brakes, you've done some suspension work, this is perhaps a job you should attempt. The only problem is the biggest cost in this job is the balance shaft. I just wish Toyota would sell us just the shaft. We would just buy that one piece, put a set of bearings, and off it goes back in the car, but they don't, unfortunately, with this engine. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.